everybody, it's Benny One, and I'm back at you with another movie review, and we're moving on to the Amazing Spider-Man movies, everybody. That's right. The first one came out in 2012, 5 years after Spider-Man 3 ended Sam Raimi's trilogy, even though it wasn't supposed to end, because they were going to make a fourth movie. And we actually got one of the villains that was going to be in that Spider-Man in this new version of Spider-Man, the Lizard, everybody. That's right. So, this movie is a retelling and version of the origin story of Peter Parker. We got a new Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, who I actually do enjoy as Spider-Man. For one, when he got cast to play Peter Parker in Spider-Man, he actually seemed younger than Tobey Maguire did when he got cast to play him, so he's a little bit more believable when it comes to him being a senior in high school, where Tobey Maguire, it was kind of hard to see him as a senior in high school, honestly, so they kind of got that a little bit more right in this movie, for sure. And we got Emma Stone playing Gwen Stacy, so yes, they do the girlfriend thing the proper way in these two movies, because Peter does actually date and is with Gwen Stacy before he meets Mary Jane in the comic books. So, and Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield's chemistry in this movie and the second movie is amazing. Like, nothing against Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, but like, their chemistry on screen together was A+, perfect. Like, amazing. It's one of the best things about this first Amazing Spider-Man movie. Like, it's one of the best things. Mark Webb is the director. The guy is great at telling, like, love stories, and that shows with Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy's relationship in this movie. It's like one of the focal points of the movie, and it shines, like, awesome. Shines. Let's see. Dennis Leary plays her dad. Captain Stacy, great. Sally Fields and Martin Sheen are Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Awesome casting choices. This movie is loaded with a great cast. Great cast. The guy that plays the Lizard is Reyes. I'm probably murdering his freaking name. Ifans or whatever. He plays Dr. Kirk Connors. He's good in the role. He's good. He turns into a CGI lizard, of course, and he's our big bad villain. And he's an okay villain for me. He's alright. He's honestly probably, I don't know if I should say the weakest Spider-Man villain in the Spider-Man movies, but I think it's kind of a toss-up between, I don't know, in the next Spider-Man movie, there's a couple of villains that I don't know. It's hard. That's one thing I will say about these two Amazing Spider-Man movies is the villains are pretty weak. I would say probably the weakest in the series of Spider-Man movies, to tell you the truth. So, because I think the villains in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are even better than the ones that were in Andrew Garfield. So yeah, I don't know. But the cast is phenomenal. And this Amazing Spider-Man movie, it does a retelling of Peter Parker's origin story, which it's kind of like Batman. We know it. We know why he becomes Spider-Man. Uncle Ben dies. Like, it's just like, I felt like they almost should have done it like flashback style, maybe, where we got little bits, kind of like what Man of Steel did. Because like with Superman's origin story, everybody knows Superman's origin story. Like, show us some flashbacks here and there, bits and pieces of his origin story. We don't need to be retold this origin story completely again. That's one thing I will say that I loved about Tom Holland's Spider-Man is they didn't really worry about giving us that full-blown origin story again, which I do appreciate, because as a comic book fan and someone that knows these characters well, I don't need to see that shit all the time. I get it. I know it. But as your every average Joe Schmo, most people know. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, most people know the origin stories of those comic book characters because they're some of the most popular comic book characters, and they have been forever. So, but this movie is darker. It kind of, as a fan of the Nolan Dark Knight Batman trilogy, this movie actually kind of goes down that route a little bit. It takes Spider-Man a little bit more serious, which I can respect and enjoy, because I actually do enjoy the serious takes on comic book characters. Like, this movie is darker. It feels like it's actually set in our real world. They use tons of practical effects when they can. Like, they don't use CG in this movie unless they had to. Like, you could tell, like, when they show Peter swinging and everything, you could tell that was actually a real person swinging around, like, underneath where the train in New York goes, like, underneath there. You can tell that that was a real person doing that shit. And then when it's CG, you could tell. Like, and the CG looks really good in this movie. I thought the CG was most definitely a step up from Spider-Man 3, for sure, 5 years before. They most definitely put in the time and effort when it came to that. But yeah, this movie's darker. It's a lot darker. It's way darker than the Tobey Maguire trilogy, for sure. Like, way darker. This is a more grounded Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield is, I would say, he matches Spider-Man more in the comic books when this movie came out than Tobey Maguire did at the time when he was Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was more the Spider-Man back in, like, the 80s and stuff, like, when Spider-Man was not, like, around that long. He matched the early years of Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield matched the current Spider-Man when this movie came out. So it's got good action in it. Like I said, the villain is kind of it's wishy-washy with the villain, and the story, it just, I don't know, it's not one of the best stories. And the thing that when the year this movie came out is it the end fight scene kind of mimicked and almost matched the end fight scene in the Ninja Turtles movie, the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie that came out, because there was a big fight scene on top of a big tall tower building in a city with where it almost mimicked that in a way, not totally. So, but overall, it was a fun movie. And I enjoy watching it still because, like I said, I appreciate the whole darker tone and the more realistic take on this character. It's a different iteration of it. The Spider-Man suit. Ooh, I almost forgot to talk about the Spider-Man suit. I wasn't a big fan of the Spider-Man suit. I appreciate and respect that they were doing something different with it. And yes, it was an origin story. It was his first Spider-Man suit. I do like his one more in the second one because it's more traditional, but this one was okay. It was very dark. Like, the colors were very, very dark on it, and it had a completely different look and everything. So, but it was all right. So overall, I found this movie to be entertaining. It's rewatchable. It's not like boring or anything. And like I said, the chemistry between Peter and Gwen shines through the movie. It's so believable, and you totally buy into it like 100%. So I'm gonna give this movie a 7.5 out of 10, you guys. It's an enjoyable watch, and yeah, so 7.5 out of 10 for the Amazing Spider-Man, everybody. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll be catching you on YouTube later because I have spoken.